This is everything you need to know before Red Sox Spring Training 2025. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. Also, thank you so much for 15,000 subscribers. I cannot believe this channel is at 15,000 subscribers. It is unbelievably incredible what this community has grown into. I am so proud of everything we've accomplished together. I can't wait to continue to grow. And a massive, massive thank you to every single one of you who watches these videos, who subscribes to this channel. It truly does mean the absolute world to me. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down every single storyline you guys need to be paying attention to this spring, because there is a ton of them and it can get confusing. I think we have to start by talking about just simply dates, right? Because tomorrow, spring training kind of officially begins. Pitchers and catchers for the Boston Red Sox are required to report to spring training. Now, most of them are already down there as guys continue to get better and better at being able to manage their time in the offseason, but it officially starts, official team workouts start tomorrow. The official kind of start to spring training is the 17th of February, when everyone's required to be down there. Again, a lot of position player guys are already there, but anyone who's not is required to be there on the 17th. This is when full squad workouts begin. This is when we really start to get our first footage and video of these guys during spring training. It's also when we start to get all the news and reports and rumors and conversations starting about roster spots and all that good stuff. So that's when spring training really kind of kicks off in terms of what the actual news cycle is going to look like. From there are, in my opinion, a couple of dates that you do need to be paying attention to. The first one is February 21st, which is when the Red Sox play their first spring training game on our TVs live in front of our faces. That is going to be an absolutely incredible feeling to have baseball back. It's against Northwestern, so it's mostly just the minor league guys, but still having Nesson back on the TV is going to feel real good. And then obviously the next one is March 27th, which is Red Sox very first game of the 2025 regular season. So you've got until March 27th to figure everything out and get ready for opening day. There are a couple of other interesting dates in there, but I don't want to talk about dates the whole time. You guys want the drama. Give me the storylines, Corbin. And that starts right here with prospects. Prospects are going to be a major theme this spring for the Boston Red Sox, mostly because the big ones are now in the conversation. As we talked about before, Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, and Marcelo Meyer are all going to be a part of big league camp this spring, which means for the Red Sox, they're going to get their first legitimate look of what these guys could look like with this Red Sox team. For fans, well, it's unbelievably exciting, right? It means that the top prospects, the guys that have been heralded as the future of this Red Sox ball club, are finally going to potentially be making an impact on this big league team. We're going to be getting our first real look as to what they look like in a Red Sox uniform, and spoiler alert, they're probably going to look pretty damn good if you ask me. So that's going to be a big storyline this spring. Can one or multiples of them do well enough to force the Red Sox hand in putting them on the opening day roster? I don't know how likely it is, but it's certainly a possibility, and I think a lot of Red Sox fans are sort of starting to clamor for the idea of one of these guys or multiples of these guys being on your opening day roster. So that's going to be, I think, big storyline number one, right? Everyone's going to be paying attention to these three guys and how they perform / how they sort of mesh with this big league club. Outside of that, though, there is some pretty important things to pay attention to. I think health is the next one. And obviously, whether or not guys could stay healthy through the spring is always a big one. There's always some sort of injury that happens during spring training where guys aren't fully ready for opening day. So paying attention to that is obviously big. But what I'm talking about in terms of health is guys coming back from injury. We're going to get our first look at some of these key players that we did not see much of, if any of, last season. In my opinion, there are three that stand out above the rest. How does Lucas Giolito, who we actually talked about, who looks great according to sources and everything, how does he look during the spring? Is he going to be ready to go for opening day, which I think everyone at this point is assuming he will? What is that going to look like when he gets to opening day? Is there going to be innings limits? Is everything good mechanically? That's going to be a big thing to focus on with Giolito. Garrett Whitlock, healthy and coming back into the bullpen. Yes, he's going to be playing this spring. Yes, he'd probably be ready for the opening day roster, but in what role is he going to be in officially? And we know it's a bullpen role, but where in the bullpen, right? And does his mechanics, does everything look good, feel good for Whitlock? And finally, I think the third biggest one, and maybe the biggest one in my opinion, is Liam Hendriks. If Liam Hendriks looks like butt cheeks this spring, the Red Sox could be in a really big situation in terms of potential problems. They don't have a closer coming into 25. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. So there is a lot riding on Liam Hendriks looking good and feeling good. If he doesn't, the Red Sox are going to have to scramble to figure something out pretty quickly. So those three are obviously the biggest in terms of injury bounce backs that we need to be paying attention to. But there are other guys as well that I think are going to stand out in terms of whether or not they're healthy. Masataka Yoshida is kind of a big one. He had surgery at the end of last season, right after the regular season ended. Does he look ready to go for opening day? I think that might be a tiny bit of a stretch at this point, but I don't think it's impossible either. We did get our first look at Masataka Yoshida just the other day in spring training. He looks great. He looks fantastic. He's in better shape, according to everyone, than he's been since being with the Boston Red Sox. So that's a really good sign that he's going to be recovering pretty quickly. Vaughn Grissom, Trevor Story, Tristan Casas all came back last year, but played a minimal amount of games because of injury. How did those guys look coming into their first fully healthy season since 24? Are they fully ready to go? Are they going to be ready to go for opening day, right? You've got a lot of people who were injured at some point in 24 or are coming back from injury into 2025 that I think are going to be either really impactful or potentially impactful with the Red Sox, and their health is going to be extremely important. Spring training is where we really start to determine that. Every year, one of the more exciting parts of spring training is getting to see the big additions your team has made this winter in a Red Sox uniform. It's been a little bit, I think, since we've really genuinely had someone to be like, oh my God, look at them in a Red Sox uniform. You got that this spring. Adding Garrett Crochet was one of the bigger moves the Red Sox have made in a very long time. We're going to be able to get our first look at Crochet in a Red Sox uniform. In fact, we already kind of did get our first look in a Red Sox uniform. If you're watching this video, you're seeing it on screen right now, and it is absolutely glorious. So being able to see him in a Red Sox uniform performing for the Red Sox for the very first time is going to be a ton of fun to watch, but also it's a good indicator. Garrett Crochet had some limitations last year. How does he look this season? Does he look prepared to give the Red Sox a large chunk of innings this year? Does he look prepared to really take that next step in becoming a true ace in Major League Baseball? Those are going to be questions that I think a lot of fans are going to be asking this spring. Plus, we also got to keep an eye on the contract situation. The Red Sox said they were open to extending Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet said he's open to an extension with the Red Sox. Spring training is prime time for extension. So that's two things to pay attention to with Garrett Crochet, but there are other names making their Red Sox debut in a uniform as well. Walker Buehler, I think, is the next biggest one. Here's a guy who has been fantastic in the past, who kind of couldn't put it together last year. What does he look like this season? Does he come out firing and looking like the Walker Buehler we saw in years past, or is he going to take some real coaching, some real developing to get back to what he was that could possibly happen in spring training? Aroldis Chapman is going to be in a Red Sox uniform. That's going to be abundantly strange. Not exactly pumped about it, but he's going to help this bullpen. How does he look in a Red Sox uniform? What do the Red Sox tweak, if anything, in his arsenal to really help him perform at his best as he gets older and kind of towards the end of his career here? And then there are smaller guys like Wilson and Carlos Narvaez and Blake Sabol also making their Red Sox debut, which leads me to maybe sort of the biggest storyline outside of the health and the prospects, and that is going to be battles for positions. Every year, whether it's a rookie trying to make a name for himself or a veteran trying to reclaim his position on a big league roster, spring training for a few of these guys can be, instead of getting ready for a season, a flat-out battleground. And for the Red Sox, they actually have quite a few different battles that are going to be taking place this spring for positions on this roster. The Red Sox right now prominently have Connor Wong in that starting role, right? Unless they bring someone in, the question becomes who else is going to be the backup? We just mentioned two names, Narvaez and Sable. Those guys are going to be battling head-to-head this spring, whether it be on the backfield, in game, whatever it may be, to end up landing that final roster spot for a catcher come 2025. My gut right now is telling me it's going to be Narvaez, but Sable does have a legitimate shot here being that lefty bat. I think in terms of things people are going to be paying attention to battle-wise, the real biggest one here is what do the Red Sox do at second base? For years and years now, second base, basically since Pedroia went down in 2018 and Xander left, second base has been a little bit of a black hole, right? We don't know ever really who's going to be in that position. This year, there's a potential that whoever lands this spot is the second baseman of the future for the Red Sox. Right now, the two biggest names, the two most impactful names fighting for this position are Vaughn Grissom and Christian Campbell. Now, a lot of people are immediately writing off Vaughn Grissom because Christian Campbell is the shiny new prospect, but I do think Grissom has and will get a legitimate shot to win that opening day roster spot. He looks healthier than he has ever in a Red Sox uniform. He looks ready and motivated more than he has in a Red Sox uniform. So I think he's going to give Christian Campbell a real run for his money. You also have the off chance that David Hamilton comes in, surprises everyone, maybe wins himself a starting job. I don't think so. I think he's more so going to be relegated to the bench, and Grissom for the immediate future is going to be the Red Sox second baseman, but we'll see, right? That's the beauty of spring training. That's why second base is going to be a major position for the Red Sox, at least for fans to focus on. Now, outside of just position player stuff, the pitching is also a bit of a battle as well. The rotation right now has 6 players just on their big league roster for 5 rotational spots, and that doesn't even include guys like Richard Fitz, who got some experience last year, guys like Quinn Priester, who could potentially be vying for one of those opening day spots. They don't have much of a chance, but they will be vying for those spots. The big one, in my opinion, is whether or not the Red Sox end up going with a 6-man rotation, because if they do, everyone fits in nicely. If they don't, well, there is going to be a bit of a battle, specifically my guess between Giolito and Cutter Crawford here as to who gets that 5th rotational spot. So you've got yourself a battle of the rotation potentially brewing for the Boston Red Sox. And then the big one that happens every year to every team is what the heck the bullpen is going to look like. Specifically for the Red Sox, that's a gigantic question mark. They have a ton of non-roster invitees for the bullpen. Specifically, there are 12 pitchers right now that aren't even on the roster that the Red Sox are inviting to spring training that are all fighting for maybe one spot on this 26-man roster come opening day. That doesn't even include rostered 40-man guys like Zach Penrod, Luis Guerrero, Zach Kelly, Josh Winkowski, who are all also fighting for a spot in the bullpen. Guys like Richard Fitz and Quinn Priester, we talked about having a small chance of really breaking camp with this team as a rotational piece. Maybe those guys end up fighting for a bullpen spot for the Red Sox over the next couple of months as well. So in my opinion, the bullpen every year is always a gigantic mystery, especially those last couple of spots. But this year specifically, you kind of have Chapman, Hendricks, Whitlock, and Slayton as sort of your staples in this bullpen right now. Everyone else, I think, is kind of fighting for their role. Bernardino, Penrod, and Wilson. Who's going to be the other lefty? Guerrero, Kelly, Weissert, who's going to be the other high leverage arm? Who's going to be the sort of long relief, low leverage guys in this bullpen? There's a lot to work out for the Red Sox. It's the biggest question mark for this team coming into 2025. They have a ton of options out there. It's just about finding the best balance and the best fit for opening day come 2025. So the bullpen, in my opinion, is always something to pay attention to. But this year, I think there's really going to be some significant battles to be had for legitimate roster space and legitimate playing time to figure out who's going to end up on this roster. So kind of a lot going on this spring for the Red Sox. Big prospects, a lot of health questions coming into 25, a lot of battles taking place, and we're getting our first look at some of these new guys. This spring, in my opinion, is going to be one of the more entertaining spring trainings we've seen in a very long time, and I'm extremely excited to cover all of it right here on Red Seat Radio. But before we get into spring training, let me know what your thoughts are. What are you paying attention to more than anything else this spring? Is there anything that I mentioned here that you're like, yep, That's it. That's the number one thing I'm paying attention to. Is there something I didn't mention that you think is the biggest storyline for the Red Sox heading into this spring? Let me know all your thoughts on the battle that's about to take place this spring training in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Actually, you know what? Instead of asking you to subscribe, I'm going to say thank you again. 15,000 subscribers is an unbelievable mark to hit. I cannot thank you guys enough for helping make this dream come true for me. Every single day, I'm so proud of the community we've created, and you guys just continue to blow me away with your kindness and support on this channel. It truly does mean the world to me. If you guys do want to listen instead of watch these episodes, you can always head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you very much for everything you've done and for clicking on this one, and I will see you always in the Red Seats.